How many times have you seen people try to comfort someone else who was called out on their blatantly bad behavior by being told that the other person is just jealous? There is nothing wrong with throwing a public temper tantrum when things don't go your way. It's totally normal. I mean, come on, she's obviously just jealous of you. Maybe you yourself have been accused of being jealous of someone for simply having a difference of opinion. In today's goth scene, I've noticed that the extent of which one decorates themselves or how extreme they go in their look tends to be a determining feature as to who is right or wrong in a situation. How is that even logical or fair? It's like a modern day case of nobility versus the commoner, only in this case, nobility has people kissing their ass, not washing it. This isn't really something new, but something that definitely blew up over time. When I was younger, a person's cool factor rested on their appearance, but to a degree. I remember we had this term, I don't remember where it came from, but we would apply it to people we didn't know, or even each other, if one of us had gothed out in our look particularly hard, and it would be goth guy or goth girl extraordinaire. Like, for example, I used to collect veils. I loved veils, and sometimes I would wear them to clubs. And I had this one that I used to wear quite a lot, and it was a vintage sort of netted one, and it was sort of short. It would clip about here, it went over half my face, and I would put my hair in a really high teased up ponytail, and as the veil went over one side of my face, this side of my face was exposed, and I would do what's called kiss curls to the exposed side, or the more grossly named spit curls. But basically what you did was you took sections of hair and you would plaster them down to the side of your face, and you would do it with either gel or hairspray, and you would do it in curls or shapes like this. When I would do the veil look, I would have to match my outfit, make it equally as dramatic, and whenever I would do that, when I went out, my friends would call me goth girl extraordinaire. So when we would see people that were particularly extreme in their look, we would think, holy shit, they're cool, even if we didn't know them. Now, if after speaking with them or witnessing, say, some unsavory behavior, we found that they were obnoxious, rude, a sloppy drunk, a shit talker, they were no longer cool. They were an asshole. I remember when people were called out on their infractions. If you were an asshole, we kept score, and that shit went on record. Now, depending upon the situation, really to determine whether we kept them at arm's length or just wrote them off altogether, because going out is expensive, youth is fleeting, and their cool outfit is definitely not worth a wasted night pandering to their douchebaggery. I don't care what you look like. Keep your bullshit over there. Somehow over time, there's been a shift to where a person's look or persona actually puts blinders on people to where bad behavior goes unrecognized. And good qualities in others, such as kindness, artistic ability, generosity, knowledge of the subculture, true talent, is simply overlooked because they don't fit the physical criteria to matter. And therefore, form wins out over function, which is pretty backwards if you ask me. Not only is this a completely unfair way of thinking, but it's vain as fuck. And what does it say about the people who foster this sort of behavior that pass judgment on a person solely based on appearance? There's absolutely nothing wrong with a fondness for aesthetic. Clothing, shoes, accessories, they're all awesome. But when all that stuff is used to distract you from the fact that the person underneath all of this glorious stuff is a shit, that's called smoke and mirrors. I know a lot of you choose to keep your look a bit more toned down or subdued because we've actually discussed it a lot in the comments, but there are many factors that come into play as to why you would not want to go full-on extraordinaire. Going over the top is a lot of work when your life doesn't revolve around it. People have jobs, families, school responsibilities, and putting together such a look, it takes time. A lot of it. I remember when amping it up was something special. It was something that we reserved for clubs, parties, and shows. Otherwise, the look was more toned down. And it doesn't mean that we didn't look goth. Of course, we still looked goth. It was just a more toned down version of it. And we still had our identity. That never changed. Just because we weren't corseted or rocking the same Eye of Horus we had on at the Batcave the last weekend. We just had day wear and we had night wear. Night wear was just a lot heavier. Events like clubs, parties, and shows, those are things that we really looked forward to, and part of that whole experience was the fact that it was really the time to let your goth flag fly. Hair raised to the heavens, eyeliner that'd get you a fist bump from a pharaoh, and shoes that were tall enough to allow you to ride the big people rides. I'm short. If over the top is the only way you roll, No disrespect. I think it's awesome that you found yourself in a situation where you can express yourself to the maximum degree that you desire. If you have the time, resources, and life permitting, fucking go for yours. There's absolutely no shame in expressing yourself in any way that you deem fit. However, that being said, it is the same exact thing for the person that decides to take the minimalist approach. When you have someone on either end of the spectrum, that doesn't mean the person on the higher end renders the one at the lower end insignificant. If you've ever found yourself in a situation to where your worth, your opinion, or even your very place within the subculture was based upon where you gauge in the extremometer, what you have to understand is the way you look is your choice that you've made within the subculture that boasts freedom of expression. And these very same people that judge you based on your appearance are the very same people that cry discrimination the moment someone judges them on their appearance. You choose to look the way that you look. These people have allowed others to choose for them. In that, they've become part of a hive mind. And what sort of qualities can someone like that feasibly bring to the table other than the fact that they can follow real well? Big fucking deal, ants can do that. Regardless of all of that, it can still feel pretty alienating when it happens to you, and sometimes it could be all too easy to cow to pressure. But just know that by remaining true to yourself, you already have the moral high ground, and these people's opinion is about as useful as a pineapple in a gunfight. These people represent a minority, and we've all fallen victim to them at some point or another. And if you don't believe me, just leave a comment below and share an experience that you've had when you felt excluded for the way that you looked. And you'll see really fast how not alone you are. That's a lot of work. When you're on 24/7, how do you dress up for special occasions? Nipple clamps? Spray paint a couple of traffic cones, strap them to your head and call them horns?